tonight on Huckabee, targeted by the federal government.
The first contact we had from the IRS, just a first general round of questions. At some point, those questions cross a line.
After years of harassment, her group is finally getting tax-exempt status. But is she satisfied? And
it's an honor to put on your school's jersey. In this world of me, we're representing the whole school, the whole community.
The high school football coach who suspended his entire team on the life lessons you can't learn from studying a playbook. Plus,
the American people want this law repealed. Republicans want it repealed. I wouldn't be surprised if a number of our Democratic colleagues secretly wanted it repealed.
Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell on the Showdown on Capitol Hill.
Welcome to Huckabee. Well, we're coming to you this week from Little Rock, Arkansas. Brace yourself, because I think there may be one aspect of Obamacare where the president is absolutely right.
If it was as bad as they said it was going to be, then they could just go ahead and let it happen, and then everybody would hate it so much, and then everybody would vote to repeal it, and that would be the end of it.
You know, the Republicans need to stop fighting among themselves about who dislikes Obamacare the most. Every single Republican in both the House and Senate voted against it. Every one. Not one Republican is on the hook for Obamacare. The Democrats own it, totally and completely. And if the Republicans in the House and Senate feel, as I do, that it really is a job-killing, economy-busting disaster that's going to increase cost, raise taxes, limit medical choices, and leave people in the lurches, then I want to suggest a way to fight it a lot more effectively. All the Republicans in both the House and Senate voted to defund and/or delay Obamacare, but they didn't have the votes. So here's my advice, and it's simple. Give the Democrats Obamacare, but under these conditions. No delays for anyone. Not big business, not small business, not labor unions, not states, not members of Congress or their staffs, and no exemptions. None. Not one group gets an exemption from Obamacare, especially not Congress or their staff. Make the Democrats eat their own cooking, because if they think it's good for our plates, they need to put it on their plates, and they need to take the first bite. Now, Republicans can't really defund Obamacare because the votes just aren't there. So, draft a bill that funds it, but which allows no exemptions or delays and no exceptions for anyone to avoid it. And then add this provision based on the president's proposal. Write in the bill a sunset clause. The bill automatically expires, and it has to be reauthorized on January 15, 2015. Now, if it's as good as President Obama and Democrats say it is, then the public's going to love it so much they will insist that it's reauthorized. But if it's as disastrous as the Republicans, the general public, and I think it's going to be, then the Republicans are going to win enough elections next year to gain control of the Senate with a likely supermajority and add enough numbers in the House to override a presidential veto. You see, I sometimes see, well, maybe things through biblical lessons. So here's the lesson. This is a Mount Carmel moment. Remember that great moment from the book 1 Kings chapter 18, when the prophet Elijah challenged 450 prophets of Baal to meet him on Mount Carmel. Now, Elijah didn't try to delay or defund those false prophets. He told them they could take their best shot to call down fire from heaven, and he'd do the same thing. There were 450 of them, just one of him. They tried for hours to call for fire to fall, and they had no fire. Elijah, being a good sport, didn't mind being outnumbered 450 to 1. He even ordered the wood around the altar to be drenched with water so that any fire would have a hard time consuming his offering. You see, he so believed he was following the right God that he put everything on the line, in public, for the world to see. No middle-of-the-night backroom deals. All of it, right out there in the open. And when Elijah called, the fire fell, and the sacrifice and the altar were consumed. Now, here's my plan for the Republicans. Give the Democrats what they want for a year. Make it clear to the American public that it belongs to the Democrats. And if it works like President Obama, Harry Reid, Hillary, and Nancy Pelosi claim, then America will be better off. And I will take to any platform or stage to apologize and acknowledge that they were right and we were wrong. But if the people of America are as disgusted with it as I predict they're going to be, then Obamacare ends January 15th, 2015. And by then, Republicans will control both the House and Senate and be poised to elect a Republican president in 2016. Having convictions is one thing. Risking everything for them, now that is political courage. And we need that kind of confident courage in our Congress today. That is how we stop Obamacare. Well, Janet and I are in Arkansas this weekend. We're attending our 40th year class reunion from the class of 1973 from Hope High School of Hope, Arkansas. Now, I got to tell you, it's a little disgusting that so many of my classmates look much younger than me. But I do have a lot of miles on me. But I have always felt so blessed to have been part of a great group of lifelong friends who I cherish and respect. We all became teenagers in the turbulent 60s, and we were the first class to end racial segregation in our community as we started high school. But we loved each other as true friends do. 40 years ago, we had bell bottoms and sideburns and shoulder-length hair. Now we've got grandkids, and we wonder, what's wrong with this younger generation? My gosh, we've become our parents. Well, to my beloved classmates from the Hope High class of 1973, I dedicate tonight's show. Unless Congress reaches a deal, the government could shut down on Tuesday, October the 1st. But I wonder how many Americans really know just exactly what a shutdown would do to them. Well, Red Eye's Bill Schultz took to the streets of New York City, and we'll see what he found out.
What do you think is going to happen when the government shuts down?
It's going to be a crying shame that our people in Congress haven't done what they're supposed to do. I think a lot of people are going to be hurt by it.
Government shutdown, what do you think?
Well, I think it's pretty dangerous. I'm concerned about it.
Are you worried about what's going to happen on October 1st?
I've got no idea what's happening on October 1st.
Judging by your accent, I'd say you are from Oregon.
We're from New Zealand.
You're from New Zealand. I thought that was a mythical place full of griffins and mermaids and what have you. Well, all right, what about your wife? Where are you from? Can I ask you a couple quick questions?
No, thank you.
No, they are so upset about the government shutdown that they will not talk.
I think it's kind of stupid.
Kind of or really? We want people to be firm in their opinions today.
I am very firm in my opinion that it's stupid.
What do you think will happen once the government shuts down?
I don't know. The world will end.
I don't think it's going to happen.
Why do you not think it's going to happen? They've done it before.
I'm optimistic.
I am pessimistic. And you know who I blame? Newt Gingrich. I don't think he has anything to do with it this time, but I don't trust his big head. Who do you blame more, Congress or Senate?
I blame them all and Obama mostly.
Hear that? That one's going to make the cut. Are you angry at Congress? Are you angry at Senate? Are you angry at all of them? Do we just agree that we like butter and eggs?
Well, I like canned butter and egg.
I love it.
But I'm disappointed in Congress.
All right. You hear that, Congress? You've got both eggs and butter after you. How mad are you that Congress will still get paid even if the government shuts down?
That does kind of piss me off.
Yeah, as it should. We're going to have to bleep the P word. I will remind you that children are watching.
Well, I don't think they're going to do it.
You know, what will happen if they do?
Not much. Well,
not much? Yeah, you might be right. Why don't we not pay taxes until the government restarts again? What do you think about that?
I agree with that.
Okay, well, that's illegal, and we have you on camera saying as much. What do you think will happen?
Well, I mean, all I know is what I read, and what I read is that there are certain departments that will close down. We will have the necessary services that we...
I like being serviced.
I like being serviced, too.
We'll talk after this.
Okay.
Despite Ted Cruz's 21-hour speech, the Senate passed a stopgap funding bill that included Obamacare money. Joining me now is Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell of Kentucky. And by way of full disclosure, I have endorsed Senator McConnell in his bid for re-election. Senator, thanks very much for joining me. And let me start with a question regarding how the Senate might react to a House bill if it delayed Obamacare for a year, stripped out the medical device tax, and things such as that.
Well, I think all the Senate Republicans would be enthusiastic about a bill that did that. And I think it's important to remember earlier in the week the procedural stuff was a little bit confusing to people. Every single Senate Republican, without exception, voted to defund Obamacare. And we were all on the same side when it came to Obamacare. This is an issue that has not divided us from the very beginning. We'd also be in favor of any other version of that, too. If defund can't get any Democrats to vote for it, you know, the medical device tax were in there. It's interesting to note earlier this year, 79 senators voted to repeal the medical device tax. If the Senate were to receive such a bill from the House, it would be really tough for all of those Democrats who earlier in the year voted to repeal the medical device tax to certainly decide not to.
You know, this week, the Republicans that maybe had a different point of view about the strategy, not about Obamacare, but about the strategy to defeat it, folks like you were called Rhino, Squish, member of the Surrender Caucus, and other things that I can't repeat on television. So tell me, what is it that really happened? And try to walk us through the procedure of the cloture vote, which is a 60-vote threshold, versus a simple majority, which I think you favored, which would have only required 51 votes to have defunded Obamacare.
The problem with the strategy that was advocated is, had it been followed, the Senate Republicans would have shut down the government. Polls indicate that 80% of Americans are opposed to a government shutdown. So we didn't feel, at least I didn't, and a majority of my Senate Republican colleagues didn't feel a strategy that led us to a government shutdown was going to be a winner for us. And of course, if you did that, Obamacare would still stand, because most of Obamacare would be unaffected if you had a government shutdown. So we wanted a strategy that could actually get an outcome. And when we had an opportunity, actually, to vote on defunding Obamacare, every single Republican voted to defund Obamacare. The problem we had, Mike, is a math problem. There are 54 of them and 46 of us, and 54 is more than 46. And so the Senate Democrats got their way. That's a simple mathematical problem.
If Obamacare stands, you have said you think it will fall on its own accord, by its own weight, I think was the exact phrase. What do you mean by that?
It can't possibly work. It's creating chaos all across the country. We have a record number of part-time jobs. Insurance premiums are going up. The promise the president made, if you have a health care plan you like, you'll be able to keep it. That's not happening. None of the promises are coming through. It's chaos in the health care provider world. Almost $1 trillion in tax increases and reimbursement cuts to hospitals and hospice and nursing homes and home health care and the like. Chaos all across the country. This won't stand. You know, it may or may not be ended this week, and I think that's unlikely given who's the president and who's running the Senate, but it's going to crack and it's going to fall, I guarantee you.
Well, I know President Obama had some harsh words for Republicans on Friday, and sometimes you wonder why the White House and Congress just can't make any headway together. Senator McConnell will answer that question and a few more when we return. Stay with us.
I'd like to hear from you. Go to my website, MikeHuckabee.com. Tell me what you think on the Leave Feedback section, or sign up for my Facebook page and follow me on Twitter. You can find a link to that and more at MikeHuckabee.com.